All 15 of them.
I'm in gymnastics now.
Oh yeah, that's fun.
Yeah, she's loving it. She's doing so good.
That's good.
All right, guys, are you ready?
Yep.
Okay, on the count of 3.
1, 2, 3. Happy birthday, Dad!
That is amazing. You made that?
Yep, I added all those sprinkles.
All by yourself.
I love it. I miss you so much.
We love you.
I love you too.
Wyndham Hotels and Resorts is not just military friendly. We are military family friendly. We work to support our military families by hiring veterans and military spouses, providing exclusive benefits through our Wyndham Rewards loyalty program, engaging in community outreach and supporting nonprofit veteran service organizations, as well as sourcing from veteran and military spouse-owned businesses. La Quinta by Wyndham has been a leading partner with the Hiring Our Heroes Corporate Fellowship Program since 2015. Over 6 years in the program, La Quinta has hosted 20 fellows and hired 11 individuals transitioning from military to civilian careers into general manager and assistant general manager positions, and established partnerships with military nonprofit organizations like Carry the Load, Military Service Initiative of the George W. Bush Institute, Armed Services YMCA, Fisher House Foundation, Operation Homefront, and more. Through the generosity of our Wyndham Rewards members, as of March 2021, more than 85 million Wyndham Rewards points have been donated to our veteran service organizations that are used for military families in need. Recently awarded the 2021 Military Friendly Company designation in acknowledgement of our commitment to create sustainable and meaningful benefits for our military community, we are proud of the work we do to support those who have served and their families.
We love our customers. It's who we are. Our unstoppable mindset sparked a revolution, putting people first, treating them right, and changing the rules in their favor. As the Un-carrier, we changed wireless forever. We led by example and forced an entire industry to follow. That was just the start. This revolution is far from over.
I'm ready to go.
Now more than ever, customers need someone fighting on their behalf. A company with a beating heart that sees people over numbers. A company inspired to change the world for the better. A company that celebrates differences, knowing that we are better together than apart. Today, our success makes possible what was impossible before. A transformative network experience connecting everyone, everywhere.
Happy birthday, Mom.
And with the highest capacity network in US history comes the best value in wireless history. Eliminating the false choice between a great network and affordable access.
I can touch the sky, I can touch the sky. 'Cause we're rising up.
We don't wait for change. We make it. We use our brand, our people, and our network as catalysts for good. Our future is in redefining wireless, not what it is, but what it will be. In bringing choice, value, and simplicity to customers in entirely new ways. In reimagining a connected world for all without limits. We are far from done. We're taking this revolution to the next level, becoming the best in the world at connecting customers to their world and earning a place in our customers' hearts forever.
Hands up, let me touch the sky.
We are T-Mobile, the Un-carrier,
I'm so high, I can touch the sky.
and we won't stop.
One of the best characteristics across almost all military spouses is this ability to deal with change. Part of my experience as a military spouse, when your partner is moving every 2 or 3 years, has been becoming flexible, being fast, and working hard. And that is what I see from my colleagues all the time. Committing, working hard, and delivering really great services or products. And finding that group of like-minded people, I have been very fortunate to find something that was a great fit. I have this wonderful opportunity to work at T-Mobile, a company that is focused on helping military families by committing to military hiring in a really meaningful way. It certainly changed my life.
Hi there, welcome to the 2021 Hiring Our Heroes Military Spouse Employment Summit. My name is Michaela Pereira, and I am your host today. I'm thrilled to be here. Many of you might rightly be wondering why I, an anchor of Good Day LA in Los Angeles, am here as your MC. Well, I guess it doesn't make sense to some of you. You're a group of military spouses and military spouse stakeholders that are concerned about employment issues. Well, some of you might remember that last year in September, I spoke on the diversity panel during a time of great angst and unrest and concern about injustice and equity in our nation. Through my participation in the event, I had my eyes opened to the unique challenges and employment barriers that are facing military spouses. And it moved me so much that I said, hey, I want to come back this year. Now, as a woman in my line of work, you can imagine it has not always been easy for me to follow my dreams. I can only imagine how much more difficult my journey would have been if I had married somebody in the armed forces and had to move frequently. This is an overwhelming prospect that all of you live every day. And that's why I'm really pleased and thrilled to see military spouse employment remains top of mind at Hiring Our Heroes. That dedication is what keeps military families thriving and allows them to stay on their journeys even during a global pandemic. Now, today, we're going to take a moment to share those journeys and dive deep into where we've been and where we're headed as we celebrate progress and shape the future. If you want to join along with us, and we encourage you to do that, you can follow the hashtags on all of your social media posts, hashtag Shaping the Future, and hashtag HOH Spouse Summit. To kick us off, please welcome Eric Eversole, President of Hiring Our Heroes.
Thank you, Michaela, for that introduction. Today's event, the Military Spouse Employment Summit, is an important event for military spouses as we work together to help them find meaningful careers across this country. For 10 years, Hiring Our Heroes has been the leading nonprofit organization dedicated to veteran and military spouse employment. Each and every day, we strive to increase military spouse economic opportunities at both the grassroots and national level. Today's event is especially important as a result of COVID and how COVID impacted military spouse employment opportunities across this country. Military spouses, more so than any population in this country, suffered the economic challenges that COVID wreaked on our economy. But as we look to a brighter future and turn the corner on COVID, let's leverage what we learned about remote work opportunities and portable job opportunities to empower spouses as they search for those meaningful 21st century career opportunities. But before we get started, let me start by thanking our host sponsor for today's event, USAA. Without your partnership and the support from all of our sponsors, the work we do here every day simply would not exist. Thanks to our platinum level sponsors, Booz Allen Hamilton, Capital One, Comcast NBC Universal, Google.org, Grow with Google, Johnson & Johnson, JP Morgan Chase, Lockheed Martin, Prudential, Toyota, and Wyndham Hotels and Resorts. I'd also like to thank our gold level sponsors, Deloitte, First Command and T-Mobile, and our silver level sponsors, Blackstone, 1150 Academy, and Perkins Coie. We truly appreciate your partnership in this important work. And now, get ready to hear riveting conversation, groundbreaking announcements, and innovative solutions. So let's get this summit started, and back to you, Michaela.
Thank you so much, Eric. We are grateful for your leadership. I think for many people, it's hard to believe that it's been 10 years since Hiring Our Heroes began shining the spotlight on veteran and military spouse employment. As someone who has been navigating her own military spouse journey throughout that time, please welcome the Executive Director of Programs and Events, and somebody I now call my pal, Meredith Lozar.
Thanks, Michaela. Hello, everyone. It's great to be with you for this year's summit. We are thrilled that you've joined us for the foremost conversation in military spouse employment. As both Eric and Michaela mentioned, this year's program celebrates the progress that's been made, and perhaps most importantly, it shapes the future for the vital issue of military spouse employment. As I sit here with you this afternoon, military spouses continue to represent a largely untapped, highly skilled talent pool, and together we have the power to change that. This past year, companies around the globe entered uncharted waters, going fully remote for the first time in history, giving military spouses the opportunity to rise as the world's premier remote workforce. Their influence on the workplace helped corporate America achieve success in the remote environment, blasting through barriers that once kept military spouses from maintaining their careers. Yet we know that as a result of COVID-19, military spouses face a staggering estimated 38% unemployment rate. Today, we focus on maintaining momentum and returning this population to the workforce. Whether you are an employer or community partner, a legislator or policymaker, a military spouse or veteran, there's something here for you in today's program. So with that, let's get started. Back to you, Michaela.
Thank you, Meredith. We appreciate you so very much. It is a great privilege now for me to introduce our very first speaker for today, Tony Wells. Tony serves as the Chief Brand Officer for our presenting sponsor, USAA, an organization synonymous with military spouse employment.
Good morning. USAA is honored to sponsor the 5th Annual Military Spouse Employment Summit. I'd like to thank Eric Eversole and the entire Hiring Our Heroes team for bringing us together as a nation to focus on the backbone of our military community, our talented and resilient military spouses. As a Marine Company commander, I saw firsthand the incredible sacrifices and outstanding support military spouses provided our Marines. In those critical times when our country called on the brave men and women who serve, spouses signed up right alongside them to answer that call. At USAA, we know that military spouses play many roles, often serving as the chief financial officer of their household. Our mission is to ensure the financial security of the military community, so it's only fitting that we put our focus on how we can support military spouses in achieving their career aspirations. Hiring Our Heroes has been at the heart of that goal for 10 years, and we're proud of having been there from the start. 10 years ago, the awareness of the difficult circumstances surrounding spouse employment were not at the forefront for many leaders in business and beyond. Thanks to the important work of those of you here today, we've been able to surface this need. However, bringing this story to our nation's consciousness is just the first step. To make meaningful change for our military families, we must collectively commit to action. One sector or group can't do it alone. It will take the collective impact of the legislative, corporate, government, and nonprofit partnerships to ensure the military spouse lifestyle is no longer a barrier to career success. Our many distinguished speakers today and those of you in the audience know the stories. COVID-19 intensifying those barriers for spouses through the lack of childcare, additional isolation, lack of job flexibility, or the opportunity to upskill. Let's take this moment together to boldly share ideas on what we will do next. The foundation is right here in front of us with the playbook for corporate leaders on military spouse hiring, which Hiring Our Heroes created in 2019. Today, I'm proud to announce that USAA is recommitting to its goal of having 25% of our workforce made up of military-affiliated employees, including spouses. Through the incredible work our teams did to adapt to COVID-19, we learned that there were ways to make remote work even easier. Today, most of our member contact roles can be performed 100% from home, and all roles at USAA are becoming more remote friendly. But hiring is only the start. To ensure military spouses are successful, we have to be their ultimate ally. We're expanding our opportunities for development and upskilling through our VetNet MilSpouse program. Partnering with key nonprofits, we supported spouses by committing more than $30 million in COVID support. Advocacy is key as well. We're proud of the progress made alongside government leaders to make it easier for the military spouses with special job licenses to retain their credentials when they move state to state. We know it's the tip of the iceberg for greater progress. Taking the teachings of COVID-19, we can start anew in positioning the corporate world to support the success of military spouses. Thank you for being on the ground floor of this work. Michaela, back to you.
Well said, Tony. We are grateful for your efforts. And as a civilian, I add my voice to those looking to raise the profile of this important issue. Many people on the front line, right, working to actively change this reality, two of which I'm terrifically honored to welcome here today. Mrs. Patricia Barron, Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for Military, Community, and Family Policy, and Dr. Jill Biden, the First Lady of the United States of America. Mrs. Barron, welcome to the 2021 Military Spouse Employment Summit.
Thank you, Michaela. It's wonderful to be here today. For many years, I have been an educator, advocate, and fierce military spouse ambassador. As a military spouse myself and a registered nurse with licenses from 7 different states, I'm really well aware of the employment challenges military spouses face. In my role as head of military, community, and family policy at the Department of Defense, it's my goal to bring the voice of the unemployed military spouse to the forefront and make it heard. Incredible work has been done in support of military spouse employment, and today we celebrate that progress. But we also shape the future of this issue because there's still plenty of work to do. The good news is, thanks to our next guest, Dr. Jill Biden, First Lady of the United States, and the Joining Forces Initiative to support military families, spouse unemployment remains a main focus area, and this administration is already shaping the future for the men and women behind the uniform. Please join me in welcoming our First Lady, Dr. Jill Biden.
Family is everything, and when your child is hurting, nothing in your world is right. When your wife or husband is struggling to make ends meet or torn between taking care of kids and keeping a job, your heart breaks with them. And that truth doesn't stop when you put on a uniform. Our troops cannot be focused on their mission if their families don't have what they need to thrive at home. And we can't expect our best and brightest if our service members are forced to choose between their love of country and their love of family. Giving military spouses the support they need to succeed is a matter of national security. And that's why I'm so grateful for the work of Hiring Our Heroes and all of the employers and community partners who have taken up this cause. Serving alongside our nation's service members are highly educated, highly skilled military spouses. This group, while championed by so many of the leaders we have in our audience today, have been overlooked by too many in the business community. Investing in them is more important than ever. With their education, experience, and skills, military spouses have so much to bring to our workforce, especially as we see that remote work is both possible and productive. We want to work with you so that we can see that spouse unemployment rate plummet in the same way we saw with veterans, because you made that happen. And I want all of you to know that the Biden-Harris administration stands with you. The president knows that there is no greater honor than serving those who serve our country, everyone who serves. With joining forces, we are ready to build on the progress we made in the past. And we're going to ensure that the families of our service members and veterans, caregivers and survivors are a priority for every White House. We're so excited to work with you and make real progress for our military families. Because here's the thing, family isn't just the blood we share. It's the love that grows in unexpected places, like clover through the concrete. It's the bonds we build through choice and chance. And it's the debt that we owe those who have sacrificed for us, who have stood between our safety and danger, who have stayed up worrying about their loved ones so that we could sleep soundly at night. Military families are our family. Family is everything, and we take care of our own. So thank you for your work. Thank you for everything we will do together to champion our military spouses and our entire American family. God bless our troops and their families.
Dr. Biden, we're so grateful to you for being here and for your impactful remarks, and of course, your commitment to military spouse economic opportunity. Now, as Eric mentioned during his welcome message, Hiring Our Heroes is celebrating its 10th anniversary this year. In that time, the military spouse employment landscape has changed for the better. Today's first discussion takes a look back at the progress that's been made, but also focuses on what's still needed to increase career opportunities for military spouses. Let's hear from our first group.
Thank you, Michaela. And what a great presentation from Dr. Biden, the First Lady of the United States. It's always wonderful to hear from our #1 advocate for military spouse employment. Hiring Our Heroes is celebrating its 10th anniversary this year, and this milestone provides us with an opportunity to look back and celebrate the progress that's been made while also focusing on the future of the military spouse employment issue. Today, I'm joined by a few incredible military spouses who witnessed great change in the field of military spouse employment. And over the next few minutes, we will dive into those experiences. Please welcome Holly Ann Milley, Vivian Greentree, and Tara Dixon. Holly Ann, let's start with you. Throughout your more than 30 years as a military spouse and as a nurse, you've had to navigate licensure and reciprocity challenges along the way. Tell us a little bit about the changes you've seen in those years in military spouse employment during your decades of service.
Okay, decades. I don't think I like that term, but thank you, Rosemary, and thank you so much to Hiring Our Heroes for hosting today's event and for including me on the panel. And thank you so much for the past 10 years of all you've done for our service members, veterans, spouses, and caregivers. So decades-long career. The one change I'm very happy about is I'm no longer wearing a white nursing cap and a white hose, white shoes, and white dress.
Would you happen to have that white cap?
I do. This is what I wore.
Oh.
30, gosh, I can't look at that. Oh my gosh, that's scary. This is my cap. Yes. So I still have it. You don't see that anymore today, which is a good thing. But yes, over the years, I have witnessed a lot. I've been a nurse for more than 34 years, and there have been several changes that I've seen since I entered the workforce over, 35 years ago. When I think back at the beginning of my career, there were very few spouses that worked at the time. So there was really no emphasis on military spouse employment. And today is a different story, thank goodness. Still the typical range of challenges that all military families face, and with the moves and deployments and childcare, and the list goes on and on. But I think improvements in technology and the spouse employment initiatives that we've seen have made change for the better for our working spouses. We mentioned the frequent moves certainly present a challenge for working spouses in the United States and overseas as well. And I chose a profession that is a portable one. So I have been able to work most of the places that we've lived. I had to get creative at times, and especially before the internet, applying for licensure in different states. Mark would receive orders and I would immediately start calling and mailing off what I needed to mail to every possible location where we might be stationed. Sometimes it would take 3 or 4 months to receive my licensure and start working. Other times I could hit the ground running. So I have to mention the Nurse Licensure Compact today. There are 34 states that are a part of that compact. And our service branches now are reimbursing military spouses for licensure fees, which they incur as they move from location to location. But I do want to mention one thing that hasn't changed, and that is the adaptability and resilience of our military spouses. And I think if there's a silver lining in this pandemic, it's that more employers are seeing that remote work and work options like telework are actually a great way to do business. And I think that's a great thing for our military spouses.
That's wonderful, Holly, and thank you so much. I do think that it's this interesting bar graph that goes with, it was more difficult with licensure back in the day, but the expectations were lower back in that time, and now the expectations are higher, and IT solutions are definitely catching up, as well as the good work from DoD. So just based on your experience, what do you feel still needs to be done to increase military spouse economic opportunity?
Okay, I think we've come a long way in our workforce. I've certainly seen a lot of changes, and Mark and I have the opportunity to travel. Last year was a bit of a challenge, but we're on the road again and doing sensing sessions with our spouses. And of course, spouse employment is on the top of the list. And licensure portability is something that they frequently bring up. So I would just like to highlight that the DoD has now finalized grants for 5 new professions, occupational licensures. And I just want to mention those in case folks aren't aware. Teaching, social work, cosmetology, massage therapy, and dentistry are now added to the 8 professions that were previously on the list. So again, I think that's great strides for our military spouses. And I think we need to continue this momentum and moving forward. And so our spouses can continue to use their education and apply their talents and pursue the fulfilling careers that they hope to have. And I mentioned the silver lining with the pandemic, and I do think companies are definitely seeing that telework is here to stay. And I think that will benefit our talented spouses looking for employment.
Terrific. That's wonderful. And just to pull the thread you talk about with the licensure and portability, I want to direct folks who are interested to Military One Source. Look at the really great work that the Department, the Defense State Liaison Office is doing on getting so many of these compacts in order. There's a great heat map. You can go state by state and see what's transferability and where we are in licensure portability. So thank you, Holly Ann. And while you were talking, the Smithsonian called. They would like your hat when you're done with it.
They may have my hat.
Vivian Greentree, you are the spouse of a recently retired service member and a Navy veteran yourself. Thank you for both of areas of your service. And throughout your private sector career, which has taken you to the highest levels of private companies, you have been pivotal to the military spouse employment conversation. Describe the changes you have seen in the military spouse employment landscape over the years.
Well, first, I was scribbling madly, Holly Ann, when you were talking, because the advocate in me was like, who are the 16 states that haven't signed on to the reciprocity? And how can I use my place and space to get out the reimbursement on licensure and the grants? That's just that's great news. And I think we can all continue to share that information. Because I do remember, when we started Blue Star Families and the National Military Family Lifestyle Survey, we were really just trying to get space at the table and the acknowledgement that families serve two, and that households do need two incomes, and that military spouse employment is indeed a national security issue. And so to hear people talking about it now just shows how far we've come. That joke about the silent service and in the Navy, being issued in a sea bag, which I never really liked that joke. But getting military spouses on panels to talk about military community policy implications. And you helped do that too. So, and not just employment, but talking about the impact on military kids and mental health, and just kind of the entirety of what military service impacts the smaller and smaller portion of the population. And that was just on the military side. The corporate side is a whole other challenge. And I agree with Holly on that. If anything positive has come out of COVID, it's that so many more corporate entities are recognizing what military spouses knew years ago. And that's that, teleworking and structured, targeted formats really, it works. And that, you can't treat people as these automatons that don't have other, real life obligations for caregiving, not just military spouses with deployed service members and small children, but, elder care, mental health, and really just looking holistically at how we treat employees and team members. And that when we do that, and as we have the chance with COVID, we've had entire systems disrupted. We're all at our houses right now instead of in person together, but we can build back more inclusively. And so that is something that I'm excited about.
Tara Dixon, you are currently serving Air Force spouse and an entrepreneur. Tell us about your career journey and how you've seen support for entrepreneurship and self-employment change over the past several years.
Well, yes, it's been a journey for sure. And I have enjoyed it very much and learned a lot. Through my career journey, I started out already doing some small consulting before my husband and I actually got married. And so when we did get married, we were living in two totally different states. I was in Atlanta, Georgia, and he was in North Carolina. And I was still connected to a corporate entity. And they were thankfully flexible enough with me to allow me to kind of travel back and forth. And like I said, I was still doing a little bit of consulting then, and I realized this was only going to be temporary, and we could be all the way across the world soon, which did happen. And so I knew that my company, the corporate company that I was working with, probably wouldn't actually allow that. And so I kind of full charged my consulting company, and that's kind of how it grew into what it was, realizing that I needed to be portable and I still wanted to work. I'm in the public health sector, and a lot of the work that we do is community focused. And so I had to kind of think outside the box on how I can still make an impact in my community, but still be, thousands of miles away. And so that's kind of how my career journey started, being a military spouse and continuing on from there. So like I said, as I started out early, I had already started the consulting business. However, I didn't know about all of the opportunities and the, support that was offered to military spouses. And that's definitely something I think should be made more aware to new military spouses. I grew up a military child, but my mom did not work. My parents served for 33 years, and she definitely was an stay-at-home mom. And so I never saw that, and I don't remember seeing spouses working very often. And so it was a new journey for me that I really had to do a lot of the research myself and connect with other spouses that were also doing work while their spouses were either deployed or whenever they changed duty stations. And so I think a lot of what I have seen, especially in the past 10 years that I have been a military spouse, is organizations such as Hiring Our Heroes. It's been amazing to see those. I get emails, I never got those emails before. And so I have information readily available to me to kind of search and figure out what I can do next for the next duty station. So I think that's been great progress of getting that information out to spouses and to new spouses and to spouses that have been in for a couple of years that have seen that process.
It's no surprise that military spouses such as yourself are thriving in entrepreneurship, because every move requires entrepreneurship, right? The spirit, the mindset, the can-do, the resilience, and creativity, and a kind of warped sense of humor helps certainly too, right? All right, so for the folks who are watching, I have to ask, you're in Japan right now. Right before we started this conversation, we all enjoyed a lovely lunch separately. What time is it there for you?
It is 2:30 a.m. But I mean, this is part of entrepreneurship, and this is part of working across time zones. And so I still have 2 additional meetings after this, and we have been resilient and figured out a way to make this work for our family.
Thank you, Tara, and thank you, everybody. Holly Ann, Vivian, all 3 of our wonderful panelists giving terrific 3-dimensional perspective on where we've been, where we are, and where we could go for military spouse employment and entrepreneurship.
It is critical to recognize the progress that's been made through so many of the Hiring Our Heroes collaborative efforts. One of those big efforts revolves around supporting military spouse entrepreneurs. Along with our friends at Grow with Google and google.org, we recently discovered that entrepreneurship is a great career path for military spouses. Today's first award celebrates the impact spouse entrepreneurs make in their communities each and every day. Jennifer Roberts, CEO of Chase Consumer Bank at JP Morgan Chase, she'll present this award.
Thank you, Michaela. Good afternoon. It's great to be with you all today to present the 2021 Military Spouse Entrepreneur Impact Award. As we have heard today, it's evident that military spouses face unique challenges in the workforce. However, recent research tells us that over a quarter of military spouses are small business owners or are considering entrepreneurship. These business owners make an incredible impact on their communities, and today we honor one such military spouse. The 2021 Military Spouse Entrepreneur Impact Award recognizes an individual who serves as a shining example of entrepreneurship. Let's take a look.
Hi, I'm Jasmine Tierra, and I'm the founder of The Black Wallet. The Black Wallet is a digital platform that educates, sponsors, and promotes Black businesses and their owners. We strive to change the narrative about Black ownership and evolve the Black economy. As a military spouse, it's more difficult to get hired because they're wondering, when are you going to leave? You know, how long are you going to be here? Do we want to spend the money to train you? There was a point where I was just sad because nobody's calling me back. And so you get to this point where you're like, well, what am I supposed to do now? I feel like I'm doing all the right things. What's next? So that's what actually made me start Black Wallet. I'm like, I'm here, I'm home. And the only way I was going to get the shot was to make the shot myself. I started self-teaching myself using tools so I can make my app. I started getting into tech, deep diving. Black Wallet took off last summer. Out of all the apps in the App Store, there are 2.5 million apps in the App Store. We hit number 51. It was definitely a highlight to my year and brought some good spirits. What I originally saw for Black Wallet was to be a resource to help people find other Black businesses. What's happening now is Black Wallet is becoming bigger than me. It's just growing and it's becoming something big. I've gotten testimonials back, off the cuff emails. I consistently hear people say, oh, thank you so much. This is something I was looking for. This is something we needed. I didn't know these businesses existed in my city. A lot of times what happens in the Black community is that we are overlooked. It's hard to get spotlighted. And just that spark of being seen, that spark of motivation gets people to go further when they thought that they wanted to give up. Thank you so much. This is a complete honor, a complete surprise. As a military spouse, of course, I hold the military community close to my heart. Thank you for what you're doing in highlighting military spouses and really highlighting their entrepreneurial skills and their growth. And I'm excited. It's a really nice looking award. Like, this is heavy and it's going on my mantle, Beyonce Grammy style. Okay, so thank you very much.
As we just witnessed, Jasmine's ingenuity in creating the Black Wallet gives all of us an opportunity to elevate Black-owned businesses. Her efforts amplify the voices of the Black small business community in hopes of inspiring those new to running a business and supporting those who are already on their way. On behalf of JP Morgan Chase, it is my honor to present the 2021 Military Spouse Entrepreneur Impact Award to Jasmine Tierra.
That is an amazing story. And we want to thank you for your efforts to lift up the Black small business community, Jasmine. We appreciate you so much. So this year, 2.3 million women left the workforce as a result of the challenges presented by COVID-19. Many military spouses, alongside their civilian counterparts, were forced to do the very same. Spouses now face a 38% unemployment rate. If you're doing the math at home, that's 6 times higher than the current national unemployment rate. While today we are celebrating the tremendous progress that's been made, it's evident there is still much to do. Our next presentation introduces us to a group of organizations working to educate stakeholders of the effects this issue truly has on military families. From the Department of Defense's Military Community Support Programs, please welcome Lee Kelly.
Hello and welcome. I am so excited to be here with you today to celebrate and honor the work of this tremendous group in the space of military spouse employment research. You might think that there's not much more to understand with regard to military spouse employment than that one data point of unemployment, but that is absolutely not the case. And so I am excited today to be joined by Blue Star Families, by RAND Corporation, by the Institute for Veterans and Military Families at Syracuse University, and Military Family Advisory Network to dive into the Military Spouse Employment Research Collective. And to get us started today, Hisako, I would like to start with you. Can you tell me how it is that the Military Spouse Employment Research Collective even became to exist?
Yeah, thanks for asking that great question. So I really think that it's an exciting time to be involved in military spouse employment research right now, because there's such an increase in demand for research and data from people who are really positioned to make some really important and real changes for military spouses. And I really think that a lot more military spouses are also seeing that value and importance and feeling empowered to share their experiences openly. If I can reflect back just very quickly, I think when I first started looking for published research on this issue, RAND Corporation's research kind of felt like it was my only go-to resource, but now there's so much more research out there and has advanced the issue thanks to really significant contributions from the groups in this collective, Blue Star Families, IBMF, NFAN, and RAND Corporation, obviously, certainly, and many others. And really, as that call for more research and data grows, Hiring Our Heroes felt there was really a critical need for us to kind of stop for a moment and say, we really need to convene some of these foremost, most military spouse employment research organizations together so that we can build a critical foundation for how we can collectively approach this issue. Really, through that belief, I think our Military Spouse Employment Research Collective initiative was born last summer. And to our knowledge, really, I think this is the first time our organizations have come together in such a capacity to really think through military spouse employment through that research lens. And in addition to introducing the collective at large, we're really excited to also introduce our military spouse conceptual framework, which we'll talk about a little later. And that can be viewed as a one-pager and downloadable on our website at hiringourheroes.org. And that was our research collective's first project, really, in starting as a starting point for building a common understanding of those employment-related experiences for military spouses.
Thank you, Hisako. You mentioned setting this foundation for understanding military spouse employment research. So now, Rosie, I have to turn to you and ask, why start? You need to lay the foundation. Why start with a framework? Why not just populate, throw some data at it? Why start with this conceptual framework to begin with?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I mean, I think collectively from our research and really from other research, we know that there are various factors that impact military spouse employment, but really a critical first step is bringing together what we know from our research and insights and build this foundation that Hisako was talking about. And actually, that's a critical first step that hadn't been done before. It really needed to be more comprehensive than what was out there. So this framework is ultimately a representation of all the factors that have the potential to influence or impact military spouse employment and experiences, as well as their outcomes. You know, we're going to use this framework to expand our own research, certainly our policies, but most importantly, our employment initiatives and programs. I think without a framework, we don't have a common understanding of what matters, and we can't push conversations forward. And we should be having more robust discussions about support mechanisms needed to help military spouses in their career development and growth, and ultimately their success.
Rosie, thank you. Some folks might think that the only two people involved in the military spouse employment space are the military spouse and the employer. And I think we all know that's not the case. And so I'd like to turn to Sarah to talk to me a little bit about how this framework can be interpreted by different individuals depending on their role, be them a policymaker, be them a service provider, be them a funder, be them an employer.
That's a really great question. So the framework is a way to visually think about the problem of spouse employment. So for a stakeholder who manages programs and services that are aimed at helping military spouses find employment, the framework can serve as a tool to scan your current offerings and find gaps where more support might be needed. If you're a funder, this might mean looking at your current giving portfolio and assessing whether there are opportunity areas to fund additional programming or research. As an employer, the framework provides a view of the complex reality that many spouses have to navigate to become employed and then stay employed. Understanding the entire landscape of military spouse employment can help you as an employer identify problem areas that you can actually address. Thus, the framework can serve as a tool to assess how you can become a military spouse ready employer. And then finally, from a policymaker perspective, your goal is to create and enact policies that have an actual real world impact on the lives of military spouses. So this model, this framework that we've created, can help policymakers better understand the larger context in which military spouses are actually living their day-to-day lives. Policy that doesn't take this larger context into account may not actually be effective in the real world.
Thanks, Sarah. And so I really want to turn to Jessica next, because this panel represents the Military Spouse Employment Research Collective. So I can't leave researchers out of the conversation when we talk about this framework. What does this conceptual framework mean to researchers, Jessica?
Military spouse employment has been an issue for a long time now. Blue Star Families in particular has been researching it for over a decade now. We haven't seen it move very much despite all of the research that we've had go into it. So our collective group realized that we have to sort of approach this a different way. So I think one of the struggles that we've had, it's very common in research, is that we all look at things a different way. We look at it with our own perspective and our own approach and our own biases. And people ask how we can get different answers when we're looking at the same question. Like, how come yours is 22% and yours is 24%? One of them has to be wrong. Well, not necessarily. Like, they can both be right, but we're not necessarily looking at exactly the same thing. But a fitting parable is, for any researcher, is the story of three blind men and an elephant. These three blind men, having never encountered an elephant before, one touched the elephant's trunk and said, "Hey, the elephant is like a snake." The next touched the leg and said, "An elephant is actually like a tree." And the third touched the elephant's trunk and said, "Actually, an elephant is like a spear." Now, all three are right, but because they're not looking at the whole picture, they're only looking at part of it, they are not getting the whole story. So they look like they're giving different answers, and they are, but they're still all correct in a certain way. So researchers looking at military spouse employment concerns have come across very similar problems. Some will look at the issues that professional spouses have in transferring licenses and certifications and say, this is the problem. Others will look at restrictions of working overseas and say, no, this is the problem. A different group might look at childcare availability or the service members' day-to-day job demands and say, no, these are the issues. This is the problem with spouse employment. So all of them have some view of the issue of spouse employment, but nobody is looking at the whole elephant. So that's what we were trying to do as this employment research collaborative, is look at the entire picture. This brilliant group of researchers came together and brought our little pieces of the puzzle to look at the whole thing. And this framework then can help other researchers and other people who want to look at the whole elephant or who want to look at just a piece of it. If you just want to look at childcare, you can just look at that and see how things impact one another. Looking to this framework to inform research strategy is not a new concept, but this framework invites our research community who have not always come together to work off of a shared framework and inform our collective future military spouse employment research efforts.
Jessica, thank you so much. Shelley, I want to turn to you next. So for military spouses out in the stationed anywhere around the world who may be in need of employment, may be sitting there thinking, I need a job. How is a framework going to help me in this space? Can you talk to me about what the conceptual framework means to a military spouse?
This framework will help military spouses take a 360-degree view of employment issues. I know in my own experiences as a military spouse some years ago, facing employment because my husband had transferred to a duty station, I couldn't find work, and I felt stuck. I felt alone. I thought it was only me that this was happening to. And I really didn't give as much thought as I should when I entered into life as a military spouse about what this meant to my work and my career. And this framework really is here to help us put all of these pieces together. Just recently, I got an email from someone over LinkedIn who is considering marrying a service member. I mean, her timing couldn't have been better for this panel. And she said she just felt like she has to choose between a career and this life. And I think all of us are in agreement. We don't want that. We don't want that to have to be the choice. And so this framework brings together all of those contingencies so that we can scan that landscape and really see what's ahead of us or what we're facing right now to give spouses all of the tools they need to find the careers they want. It shows where challenges might be. And that's really helpful when you're trying to make those choices and consider your career path. Now, this doesn't mean that it's only for people at the very beginning of their careers. One of the great things about this framework is that it meets you wherever you are. So it incorporates the changes that come with every move, every new life event. I think we all agree that change is the one constant in military spouse life. And this is here to try to help build some ideas for solutions. So it will help you think about things like looking ahead to the job market in that new location or new country. Thinking about if you have children, how old they'll be when you get there, what kinds of childcare might you need, the capacity for the service member to be available or whether or not that service member is going to be away a lot, and what that means to you in your work life. Those are things I did not consider in my own experience, and I really wish I had. I think I would have had an easier time. And so I think for us, this framework is there to ease that out for spouses. By the time I sat down and really looked at my own situation, I'd lost a lot of time. We have to figure this out really quickly because we don't have much time at duty stations. So we really need to hit the ground running. And the ideas in this framework, these concepts are there to help move the process along a little bit so that we can try to make sure that spouses get those careers that they want and that they have more control over their work lives.
Thank you, Shelley. Hisako, Rosie, Sarah, Jessica, Shelley, thank you so much for allowing me to be part of this conversation today. I am so excited for the forward move with this conceptual framework as we all seek to better understand and solve the issues related to military spouse employment. I wouldn't be doing my job, though, as an Army veteran, social worker, and civil servant for the Department of Defense, if I didn't mention, though, that there are resources today that can help military spouses take the next step in reaching their career goals. These are no-cost resources through the Department of Defense. And so for any military spouses who are tuned in today, I want to let you know that there are certified master's level career coaches standing by 6 days a week through Military OneSource. That's 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday, and all day on Saturday. That's that Military OneSource 1-800-342-9647 number. I think those career coaches are a great touch point to address your individual needs. You know, you look through that framework and then you see what's going to impact your career journey talk to a career coach about how to resource yourself and your family so you can achieve your career goals, whether you're talking about starting out with the job search, funding and education, developing that resume, applying for federal employment. The DoD's career coaches can assist, as can the tremendous partnership of the Military Spouse Employment Partnership, 500 companies, corporations, federal agencies, nonprofits, many of our partners here today who participate and recognize the value of military spouses in the workplace. So honored to be here today. Thank you to Hiring Our Heroes for this opportunity. And with that, I will close out today's panel. Thank you.
Thank you, Lee. With the collective leading the way, it will be incredible to see the impact research has on the future of military spouse employment. Our next presentation honors those who make a difference through their volunteer efforts. This is one close to my heart. Each year, military spouses volunteer hundreds of thousands of hours in their communities. This award celebrates the impact those volunteers make. Please welcome the Group Vice President for Revenue Management and Product Analysis for Toyota Motor North America to present the Volunteer of the Year Award.
The 2021 Military Spouse Volunteer of the Year Impact Award recognizes an individual who has made great contributions to strengthen and empower his or her community and military spouses in those communities. This year's recipient, Samantha Domingo, has done just that. Samantha is a veteran military spouse who currently is a part of the military team at Amazon Web Services, where she works as a military technical recruiter. But her day doesn't end when she leaves her paying job. Over the last 6 years, Samantha has grown to be a force as a community builder in the San Antonio metro area. She is a co-founder of #LinkedIn Mill City, which prior to COVID was meeting in person monthly, drawing hundreds of military spouses and veterans to the meetings which she and her husband created the content for, secured speakers, and ensured that the military community had a place to gather and network in person. When COVID hit, the meetups were moved to a virtual meetup. Through these efforts, they have connected San Antonio employers with members of the military community looking for employment and to grow networks. Samantha is also the co-founder of the Key, K-E-Y, with over 25,000 members. The Key has built an all-volunteer force around the globe to connect military spouses and veterans with mentors throughout their career. And she serves as the San Antonio MC's co-chair for the Hiring Military Spouses Pillar, working to ensure military spouses are connected to employers in the local area. On behalf of Toyota, I am honored to present the 2021 Military Spouse Volunteer of the Year Award to Samantha Domingo.
There are so many military spouses, veterans, and advocates blazing trails for our community. I am not only honored, but deeply humbled to be recognized for this award. I want to express my deepest gratitude to Hiring Our Heroes for all that you do to uplift, support, and advocate for our MIL community. Thank you to Amazon and Amazon Web Services for always supporting me and providing me with the opportunity as a recruiter to hire high caliber talent in tech. I would love to give a shout out to Military City USA, the JBSA Alliance, the Key Mentors, and LinkedIn Mill City. We are stronger together.
Samantha, incredible job. So today we have emphasized the importance of military spouse employment remaining top of mind through an incredibly challenging year. Now, as our nation focuses on recovering from the pandemic, we're facing the lowest numbers of women in the workforce since the 1980s. We know our 92% female military spouse population was hit hard by the reduced employment opportunities caused by COVID. Now is the time to re-engage the business community. So let's listen to this discussion, moderated by Laura Schmiegel, Head of Military Affairs at Booz Allen Hamilton, and presented by Google.org and Grow with Google.
My name is Laura Schmiegel, and I'm the Head of Military and Veteran Affairs at Booz Allen Hamilton. First thing I'd like to do is introduce you to this great group of people who are going to be discussing the effects of COVID-19 on military spouse employment and how we might handle re-entry to work for military spouses in the coming months and weeks. I think this is an extremely timely and important topic and kind of a serious one. We know from the latest Blue Star Family Survey that 43% of military spouses have had to leave their job during the COVID-19 pandemic. And there are a variety of reasons for that, but whatever the reasons, that should be an alarming number to people. I think any other demographic that this had happened to would probably cause national headlines. This one hasn't. It's certainly caused people to pay attention in our community, though. Maybe one of the reasons that it doesn't create more of a stir outside of the military community is because it's a population that's kind of hard to define. By definition, we're defined by the people we're married to, which doesn't give people a clear picture of what we do or where the problem might be coming from. But we know a couple of things. We know that 90% of military spouses are women. And so to the extent this serves as kind of a bellwether for larger populations in the country, we should at least study it and try to figure out the reasons why this population of women is struggling to maintain their employment during COVID-19. We also know that military spouse employment is extremely closely tied to retention in the military, something we've known for a long time. And it's the reason that the Department of Defense spends so much money caring about military spouse employment. There are millions of dollars spent on programs every year. Congress cares. They've passed legislation to try to ameliorate the effects of a military lifestyle for military spouses and help them keep their employment. And great employers like the ones on this panel and the ones listening in and on the councils for Hiring Our Heroes have all raised their hands and tried to commit to hiring and keeping military spouses. And yet, over the last 10 years, military spouse unemployment has remained stubbornly in the same place, somewhere between 18 and 23% by any measure that's been done over the years. Jim, I'm going to start with you. Why do you think this is such an indelible number for military spouses, and why aren't traditional workforces solutions that we see in other populations working for them?
Thanks, Laura. And that's really sort of maybe the key to the answer, right? Is how do we solve this problem? And the issue, I think, with most traditional programs is that they don't really address some of the key problems. Military spouses, one, they often need an alternative work arrangement. Sometimes they have childcare issues that they have to resolve. And many hiring managers see that as a challenge. They see that as you're giving me a problem to deal with, rather than starting with the talent and looking at the fact that military spouses are educated, they're talented, they're disciplined, they have a great sense of working as a team, and they could be a great and loyal resource to your organization. So programs like the fellowship program that Hiring Our Heroes runs gives a great opportunity to see the talent in action. And what we've typically seen is once hiring managers see talent and they see what talent can do, now something like needing an alternate work arrangement, needing maybe additional accommodation here or there is something they're more willing to do because we hook them with the talent. So that's always the key thing, is how do you get the talent in front of the hiring manager and allow them the opportunity to see that in action. Now, for an example of that, I can't think of anything better than what's going on in San Antonio. You know, if you think about San Antonio, that's a community that's really military city USA, right? So they've embraced supporting the military community. They've embraced supporting the Military Spouse Fellowship Program. And I'd like to turn it over to Juan to talk a little bit about why the team is focused on that and the successes and the impacts that they've seen. I think this would be a great lesson for other employers to look to and to understand and to try to implement. Juan?
Thanks, Jim. I appreciate it. And good afternoon to everybody. Yes, Military City USA, number one employer in the city. This is the 7th largest city in the nation. And because we have such a large military footprint here, we have also 60-some federal agencies. And so part of my job and my office is what we do. We want to keep those bases, those military bases and that military footprint here in the city of San Antonio. And one of the ways we do that and want people to come to San Antonio when they have PCS orders
is we support the families. And the city of San Antonio put their money where their mouth is. And so a couple of years ago, we got 2 years worth of funding out of our city council. This is city council. This is a taxpayer funding to fund fellowships for our military spouses. And this has been a very successful program in that we've gone out to now over 60 companies within the San Antonio region. San Antonio region, if you look at Joint Base San Antonio, it covers 4 counties and 30 smaller cities. Of course, San Antonio is a large city, but it's a pretty significant number of geographically and just a big place. And also we have about 80,000 folks that are associated here on base, active duty civilians, and 1 in 8 people in our county here are associated with the military. Why this has been successful is because we, the city of San Antonio, number one, put our money where our mouth is. Number two, we've been very aggressive at selling this program. And everything Jim said about military spouses is true. And so we've had a very, very successful run at this since we started the program over a year ago. So I can tell you that the hiring rate right now in our fellowship program is about 95%. And we combined and looked at the salaries, over $1 million worth of salaries. Salaries are over $70K a year, and the average here in San Antonio is $56K a year. And I'm happy to report that 45 fellows have completed the program, and 20 of them were funded by the city of San Antonio. And because we started, we're the first city in Texas to really put money down on this program, other organizations, great organizations like USA, which is on the line, come on board, and we look forward to continue supporting our military.
Chrissy, do you want to talk a little bit about USAA and the things you're doing there in San Antonio and nationwide?
Yes, thank you, Laura. USAA has a long-standing partnership with Hiring Our Heroes and has been engaged in the Military Spouse Fellowship Program since 2019. In 2020, we experienced an 80% increase in hiring manager participation and 54% growth in hiring fellows from all of the programs. So over the last few years, the fellowships have continued to mature, and we've collected significant industry best practices to share with other companies interested in participating. We're always looking to improve our efforts. So one example that we put in place for the upcoming cohort is that we conducted a USAA and Hiring Our Heroes Fellowship information session for any fellow that was interested in USAA. What this session did is it allowed our hiring managers time to present their individual roles, what their department may look like, and what it may be like within USAA within those roles. And then we gave the fellows the opportunity to ask questions directly of those hiring managers and of each other. We received overwhelmingly positive feedback. So this will likely become a standardized part of our process as we continue to scale the program. Now, I know there's other great projects out there and other programs for our military spouse community. So I have a question for Tom. I know that the Wounded Warrior Project is also providing scholarships for military spouses and caregivers to participate in the program. What is the value of returnships for the population that Wounded Warrior Project serves?
Thank you, Chrissy. The Wounded Warrior Project is pleased to support the Hiring Our Heroes Fellowship Program for spouses and caregivers. As many of you know, our mission is to honor and empower wounded warriors and their families. And for spouses and caregivers, this means gaining independence and increased self-worth, and knowing that their talents and energy are providing financial security for their families. The warrior population faces injuries and illnesses that create obstacles to employment, in addition to the stress that comes with uncertainty. These returnships, as they're called, are enabling families to overcome these situations and to flourish. Laura, as a longtime advocate for the military spouse employment work, where do we need to continue to innovate to remove barriers for spouse and caregiver employment?
I mean, it's the big question, right? And I think if this panel demonstrates anything about this problem at all, is that there is no one magic fix, and that commitment is a nice start, but you need to follow through with action. And I think everyone on this panel is a great example of how different companies at different levels, different organizations can do that, but they're all going to have their own flavor. And if there's any theme that cuts across all of them, I think it's that you have to give spouses a chance to show up. You have to get them in the door. It takes maybe a little more work to get them in the door. You have to look through the fellowships, find a match, have them get to know your company for a few weeks or your city. We need supporters of the programs like Wounded Warrior Project, who are raising their hands to say we're gonna invest in these programs to get spouses in the door. We talked a little bit on childcare. We know that that's an issue for lots of families these days. It certainly hit military families hard. So it's a lot of hard work, but it's why I know Booz Allen is so proud to stand with all the people on this panel and the people in the audience today to support these programs, because I think we're all willing to roll up our sleeves and do what it takes, because we have enough spouses in our companies. We know what the value is and we know what they bring. And we know that as soon as we bring a spouse into our company, that leader asks for more. So I just want to thank everybody on this panel today. You represent the best of employers out there for military spouses. And with that, I'll turn it back over to the Hiring Our Heroes group.
The concept of returnships is such an important workforce development tool. Really exciting for us to hear how the Military Spouse Fellowship Program creates access and opportunity. Now, that said, there is a definite need to continue the dialogue and find ways to address the systemic issues that contribute to the staggering military spouse unemployment rate. So now let's turn our attention to a fireside chat. It'll be facilitated by my friend and former colleague, Brianna Keeler from CNN. She's also author of Homefront and a military spouse herself. Joined by Congressman Joe Wilson and Senator Tim Kaine, they'll discuss the current legislative priorities around military spouse unemployment. All right, Brianna, take it away.
Senator Kaine and Congressman Wilson, it's so wonderful to be able to have this discussion with you about these issues that are so pressing to military spouses and therefore so pressing for military families that can be traced all the way to force readiness when it comes to providing financial stability to military families and providing purpose to military spouses as well. This is really, military spouse employment is the biggest issue that military spouses talk to me about. We cover this in my CNN column, Homefront. And the good news is that there's a lot that Congress can do to address these issues. And I know that you two are two of the legislators who are working so much on this. So I want to jump right into what Congress has done and what Congress is doing. Congress has funded efforts initiated by the DoD to address the challenge. And often Congress has come to the table with ideas and solutions that they're hearing directly from military organizations and from military spouses. Can you talk a little bit, starting with you, Senator Kaine, about what Congress has done and what more they need to do?
Brianna, I'm glad to, and I'm really happy to be here with Representative Wilson and with you, and thank you to Hiring Our Heroes. The Chamber's effort is very strong. Here's some good news for everybody on this. In a Washington that's sometimes too partisan, this is not a partisan issue. We've got great bipartisan support in both houses for tackling the problem. The problem, Brianna, as you started off, is this, that 10 years ago, the unemployment rate for veterans, especially Iraq and Afghan enlisted veterans, was higher than the national average. Congress embraced a set of strategies to bring that down. And with everybody working together and private employers, et cetera, we succeeded. But then we took a look at the military spouse unemployment rate and we realized we've got an even bigger problem there for many of the same reasons. Frequent moves, spouses come with a license or credential, come into one state where it doesn't transfer. If it does, they have to pay a fee and they may not have the money. So in the House and Senate, we've worked very hard, usually as part of the National Defense Authorizing Act, which is the one bill we know we can get passed every year, to do a series of things. So things we've worked on in the Senate are giving base commanders more encouragement to open up entrepreneurial opportunities on bases for military spouses. That is important. Strategies to make childcare more available and more affordable. Incentives to work with governors and states to reduce or ease this licensure transfer, to allow some of the funds that can go to military families can be used to pay for licensing fees if that can help a transfer of a credential for a military spouse from one state to the next. So we've done some good things, but I think, I don't want to speak for Congressman Wilson, but I feel like we have a lot more to do. And I think both of us have some legislative initiatives this year that we're promoting as part of the defense bill, which gets done in May and June in the committees to try to continue to advance and do what we need to do to support our military families.
Congressman Wilson, what about you? What do you want to see going forward? Where have you been happy with where progress has been made?
Well, Brianna, thank you. And hey, it's wonderful. We're joint service today, okay? Because with your Green Beret husband, with Senator Kane's Marine son, hey, and then I cover several features. My oldest is a JAG officer in the National Guard, Army Guard. My second's a doctor of the Navy. My third has been a signal officer, and my youngest is an engineer, and they've served in, I'm really grateful, in Iraq, Egypt, and Afghanistan. So we're a military family, so I really appreciate it. And then indeed, as we were working together, and it is bipartisan, as the Senator mentioned, there is a 26% unemployment rate among spouses. This needs to be addressed. And I'm really looking forward to working with the various veteran service organizations. We've had truly phenomenal success in the past, working together with the Military Families Caucus. One of the successes I like to point out is indeed the Military Family Stability Act in the National Defense Authorization Act, and the Senator is correct. It's not necessarily standalone legislation, but what we can include in the National Defense Authorization Act, which is must-pass legislation. This provides for military families to have the flexibility of 6 months before a deployment or after a deployment before they would have to vacate. And so this helps provide for issues, as we'll be discussing, of licensure, of small business loan capability, of working with like the American Logistics Association for private employment. There are a lot of opportunities that we'll all be working together.
I think one of my big hopes coming out of the pandemic, where of course we've all been challenged, is that we've learned to work from home, which is something that allows remote work for so many military spouses. And maybe that's opened the minds of a lot of employers about spouses, hiring spouses from other states, or allowing spouses, when they pack up, to pack their jobs with them, which would just be amazing to provide that opportunity to them. Back to you, Congressman Wilson. You have a track record of working with military spouse advocacy groups like Hiring Our Heroes. You worked with NMFA and MOA on pieces of legislation that benefit military families. What has appealed to you about the package of legislative proposals that you're currently working on to enhance licensure reciprocity and to expand military spouse entrepreneurship opportunities? I'd really like to touch on the entrepreneurship opportunities.
And hey, it really has been the veteran service organizations. And then I really have to point out all credit to Gold Star Wives. They were able to have in the National Defense Authorization Act 2 years ago the provision to finally eliminate, Brianna and the Senator worked on this too, and that is to eliminate the widow's tax. Of all things, there was a DOD VA offset, which had a $12,000 per year negative consequence to military families who had lost family members. That has been corrected. And we're talking about something very significant, $5.3 billion. But and so things working together. And as I mentioned, like with the American Logistics Association, these are companies that work with AFIs, NAVACs, with the commissaries and PXs around the world. And they are giving preferential hiring to military spouses and military families. And so it's a joint public-private opportunities we have. And I'm grateful to have the opportunity to keep promoting this. And then licensure. We need to have interstate compacts where different states will recognize the licensure capabilities of another state. And putting that in perspective, a lot of people wouldn't realize there are up to 200 different licensures for employment by various states. And so this is an issue that's got to be addressed, and it can be addressed. And hey, we've got military-friendly states. I know the Commonwealth of Virginia, state of South Carolina, I know that we work very closely. I represent the communities adjacent to Fort Gordon in Georgia, and represent Fort Jackson. I did represent Parris Island, again, so close to Savannah. And so over and over again, we can work together. And but hey, these bases are not remote locations. They are significantly by state, tri-state circumstances that need to be addressed.
Yeah, no, it's such an important issue, the transferring of licensure, so that there aren't gaps in employment too, which can sometimes even spit a military spouse out of an algorithm when they're applying for a job. It's so important. It's also important for states at the state level. I mean, you're doing what you can do in Congress, but it's so important for governors and for state legislatures to understand this issue for military families. To you, Senator Kane, childcare. I mean, how do you work if you don't have childcare? And this is the access to reliable childcare is one of the biggest issues that military families say that they have. I mean, the complaints that I will hear are, I need there to be childcare that begins earlier. Right. You know, if my spouse, and most of the time it is women, but it's not always women, if my spouse is deployed, then I need to know that I have dependable childcare, you know, sick day childcare, all of these kinds of things. What can be done, especially some are on waiting lists for daycares, what can be done to prioritize, you know, this issue and make sure that this is something that isn't a barrier that prohibits military spouses from being as gainfully employed as they could be?
So, Brianna, you're right. When I do roundtables with military spouses in Virginia, I'm always amazed at the frequency of the child care issue. It's always right near the top of the issues that folks bring up as barriers. So I'm happy to tell you that I have a bill with John Bozeman of Arkansas. And what we traditionally do, and I'm sure it's the same on the House, we'll introduce our best ideas for dealing with military spouse unemployment as a standalone bill, but then rather than have a standalone vote, when we get into the Armed Services Committee defense bill, we will bring that up as an amendment and it'll get folded in. And we've got this great bill called the Jobs and Child Care for Military Families Act that John and I are pushing. Here's what it would do about childcare to complement some of the things we've already done. We've already improved the hiring authorities on military bases to make it easier to get high quality childcare workers hired. That's a good thing. But many military families use flexible spending accounts that are available through the DoD, and that's a way they can put pre-tax dollars into these spending accounts and then have them available for specific purposes. We need to clarify that those pre-tax dollars in the spending accounts can be used for childcare. So we'll give our military spouses, you know, one more economical tool to have money set aside for childcare. Some of what we are trying to do in the American Rescue Plan that we did earlier, though not specific to military spouses, and the jobs plan that the president is talking about now will also have childcare investments that should help military families and others. The other thing I'm really proud about is we use a tool called the Work Opportunity Tax Credit to encourage employers to hire populations that have found there to be barriers to employment. But in the past, that was not available to incentivize employers to hire military spouses. And so that's the second half of this bill that John Bozeman and I have, is to take the Work Opportunity Tax Credit and to expand it so that there really is an incentive for employers to hire military spouses. And Brianna, you really touched on something so important that I just want to go back and underline: the telework phenomenon that we've learned and gotten better at in the last year. So many military spouses tell me they apply for a job, they're qualified, maybe they're overqualified, but the employer says, yeah, boy, you'd be great, but the chances of you getting PCS and having to leave is very high. So why don't I hire somebody who maybe isn't quite so great, who will not necessarily be transferred somewhere else? Well, the fact that we're learning how to do this better and telecommute better means an awful lot of military spouses will not face that barrier so significantly, because they'll be able to say, hey, you've been used to people teleworking, and even if I get PCS somewhere else and I have to move, I'm still going to be able to be a great worker for you. And employers will have more confidence in that because they've seen it in the last year in a degree that they hadn't before.
Yeah, that job portability is so important. And I'm really anxious to see if that's something, if that kind of that culture of acceptance around that changes. And I certainly hope that it does. I just want to thank both of you so much for talking about these important issues. I know we're really just skimming the surface here, but this is such an essential topic to discuss. We say, you know, being in the military is a family business, and you really need the health of the whole family, the employment health of the whole family. And so that's why we are here talking about this today. And so I just want to thank you again. And also, if anyone needs any additional information about these initiatives, because as I said, there are a lot, you can visit MOA's Take Action Center. You can find the HOH NMFA MOA Military Spouse Employment Legislative Priorities on their website, and just get a little more accustomed with what is going on and what we hopefully have to look forward to. Senator Kane, Congressman Wilson, thank you so much.
Brianna, thanks.
Be with you.
Keep up the good work, Joe.
Hey, thank you. And Hiring Our Heroes, what an extraordinary organization for all of us. Thank you. God bless each.
Take care.
It is really good for us to hear about these bipartisan efforts to substantively address the big issues impacting military spouse economic opportunity. So let's build on that conversation now around opportunity. I'd like to introduce Crystal Cochran, Director of the Military Spouse Fellowship Program at Hiring Our Heroes, and Hector Mujica, Economic Opportunity Lead at Google.org. They'll talk about their partnership and continued commitment to increasing military spouse career opportunities.
Hi, Hector. So great to see you, and glad we have a few minutes to chat today.
Crystal, it's good to be with you.
So, as you know, Hiring Our Heroes is dedicated to collaboration as one of the best ways to increase economic opportunity for military spouses. Tell me about how Google and Google.org work alongside military and veteran service organizations to support their efforts.
Well, at Google.org, we are committed to providing pathways to meaningful opportunities in the digital economy for groups that are often underserved. And this, of course, includes veterans and their families. Over the last several years, we've had the privilege to support organizations like the USO, Student Veterans of America, and Hiring Our Heroes, just to name a few, to help them and veterans and their families have greater access to the digital skills that they often need to participate in the digital economy. This includes leveraging employer-backed credentials like the Google Career Certificates, as well as more bite-sized trainings like Google's Applied Digital Skills Program to support veterans and their spouses with skills for fast-growing fields in the economy. And we remain committed to continuing to find ways to help unlock access to opportunity for those that have dedicated their lives to serve this country.
Fantastic. And as you said, Google and Google.org are longtime partners of Hiring Our Heroes. Most recently, our teams conducted a study on military spouse career journeys, particularly focusing on upskilling and reskilling, entrepreneurship, and remote work. Talk about, if you would, the innovative tools developed from that study and how Google and Google.org remain committed to helping military spouses upskill and reskill.
Absolutely. The research we conducted last year was made possible by a grant from Google.org, which is Google's philanthropy. And it surveyed more than 1,500 military spouses to learn more about the military spouse experience. What we found were signals that pointed to barriers and opportunity, whether starting a business, finding a new position, or exploring training and educational opportunities. We found that military spouses often felt overwhelmed and unsure how to get started. Navigating the vast array of government, nonprofit, and corporate programs assigned to support the community sometimes can create anxiety and feel confusing. So the research also pointed us to the fact that 8 in 10 military spouses have already pursued additional training and education, and a majority are still very likely to pursue additional training in the future. That's why Google and Hiring Our Heroes work together to launch the MilSpouse Career Roadmap. This is an interactive hub that combines a range of tools and resources that support military spouses in building careers that move with them. Tools like remote work search features, as well as remote education and employment resources provided by various organizations. This tool, as well as the broader work we're doing here, is uniquely aligned with our mission as a company, which is to organize information. And in this case, is to organize information for military spouses and make that information as useful and actionable as possible, thereby empowering military communities with greater access to opportunity.
I love the focus on actionable, Hector. That's so powerful. And I would say, as a military spouse, that's something that isn't always there. And especially as well, your comments about it being really difficult to sift through the available resources and figure out just how to get started on that path. Absolutely love it. And I'll add that for our part, at Hiring Our Heroes, we stand fired up and ready to continue collaborating with you and the team at Google and really just building bridges around our military spouses.
As do we. Thank you for all your support.
Thanks, Hector.
Making change for military spouse employment is going to take a village. We know that. Hiring Our Heroes is dedicated to providing the tools and the relationships for that village to grow. Speaking of villages, it's time for our next award, which reveals how powerful one community's efforts can be. Here to introduce the 2021 Military Spouse Impact Award for Community of the Year is Heather Riley, Principal and Sector Leader, Deloitte Consulting.
The Impact Award for Community of the Year recognizes a community and its leaders for extraordinary efforts in creating a strong, inclusive community that allows military spouses to thrive, both inside and outside of the gates. At Deloitte, we understand how important those efforts are in support of military spouse economic opportunity. The award recipient for this year's Impact Award for Community of the Year was one of the first communities to be designated as a military spouse economic empowerment zone because of its commitment to military spouse employment, support for the Military Spouse Professional Network, and the Military Spouse Fellowship Program, as well as its potential to lead the nation in cross-sector solutions to military spouse employment. The Military Spouse Economic Empowerment Zone now includes 45 local employers, with the unwavering support of the local installation and several local chambers. In 2020, they set clear goals aligned to the pillars of empowerment zones: to hire, train, and advocate, resulting in the creation of a local military spouse employer directory, which creates a direct line of communication from military spouse professional network members to 30 local hiring managers at military spouse ready companies, all with the ultimate goal of reducing time to hire after a PCS move into this community. They've also hosted industry events with some of the largest employers in the area, building camaraderie and sharing best practices among employers, while at the same time educating spouses about what makes this local economy unique. And if that isn't enough, this community also worked with local chambers to advocate for statewide tracking of military spouse unemployment, which is being considered during this legislative cycle. For all of their efforts, we are excited to honor Tampa, Florida with the 2021 Military Spouse Community Leader Impact Award. Congratulations, Tampa.
On behalf of all the companies in our Tampa working group, those who have hosted military spouse fellows, and those who are part of our employer directory, we're honored to receive this recognition.
Special thanks goes to the MacDill Air Force Base leadership and all of the family readiness groups for helping us to connect to local spouses.
Together with Hiring Our Heroes and our local chambers, we will continue the work to make Tampa the best place in the country for military spouse employment.
Congratulations, Tampa. We are so proud of you. We see you. Go ahead. So far today, we have celebrated progress, we've demystified data, and we've showed you how we're starting to shape the future through policy and legislation. Now, let's take a moment to talk about what we all can do on the local level in our own backyards to support military spouse economic opportunity. Joining me now is Liz O'Brien, CEO, Freedom Learning Group, and she'll do just that.
Welcome to our next panel, Grassroots Engagement, Creating a Wave of Opportunity. I am Elizabeth O'Brien, CEO of Freedom Learning Group. We are a military family-founded company and social impact fund backed by Achieve Partners. This was an extraordinary year for so many in America, one that held immense challenges, but in parallel, allowed visionary leadership to help redefine what the American workforce will look like today and in the future. At FLG, our visionary model was created by our founders to close a skills gap through upskilling and hiring a geographically dispersed talent community. We are but one example of change that was a response to creating a solution to impact veteran and military spouse unemployment and has expanded into a global movement. Over the course of 2020, women especially experienced a dramatic drop in labor force participation. This was especially the case for those with children. Across the country, women lost 5.4 million jobs. And when we think about the impact of change and opportunity over the last year, the time is now for each of us to act in our communities, to be agents of change and drive solutions forward to help return not just those 5.4 million women to the jobs they lost, but all Americans. Please join me in welcoming Tracy Platt, Executive Vice President, Chief Human Resources Officer, Cerner; Michael St. Germain, Product Marketing Manager, Veterans and Military Families, Grow with Google; and Brian Alvarado, Director, Workforce Development, Hiring Our Heroes. Tracy, I'm going to start with you. As a military spouse yourself, can you tell us about your career journey and how staying engaged in your local community allowed you to build your path to success?
Hi, Liz. It's great to be with you, and it's a true privilege to be here with all of you that are joining us today. Look, what a road. And as I reflect on kind of straight out of college and, my husband being deployed and, anxious and motivated to find work, found myself in Southern Missouri in Fort Leonard Wood, trying desperately to find a job. I couldn't even get a job at the Waffle House with a degree because of the military affiliation and the concern I may be deployed. So that wasn't an option. So what that led me to actually was more voluntary work. And I ended up working with the first Red Cross and became a first aid and CPR instructor, which really opened the whole entire door around training and development in that field. So as I reflect on kind of the windy road and then an additional leadership roles held as a family support group leader and the other things I'm sure a lot of us can relate to as a military spouse, it really opened doors to experiences, and really thinking about what is maybe the field or aim that you have interest in or I had interest in. And frankly, a viable path could be cultivated with that in mind, with really that voluntary work, giving back to the community as a real lever to be able to drive experiences that are necessary while also giving back to the community. I think the other thing I would reference, as we think about the balance of civilian career aspirations with military career aspirations, we know that can be at odds, right? Because obviously the choices that military spouses have to take, as well as the individuals serving in the military, and that can sometimes lead to a decision to leave the military based upon that dichotomy and that challenge to balance. And my husband found that for himself at the time of retirement, where he wasn't necessarily feeling supported by his employer at that time as a National Guard member and leader, and also coupled with family balance issues. And so he ended up needing to transition. And we know from the mental health research that can be extremely difficult already transitioning out of the military. Lastly, I would just reference a few things. As an organization, Cerner is a healthcare technology company, really focused on, frankly, bringing technology to bear related to healthcare, and is working actively around this with our military veterans and Department of Defense as we continue to enable that. We work hard to employ veterans. We've got about 1,000 veterans that we employ, and also additional support partners such as Blue Star Families, Military Family Advisories, and then really actively internally, how do we create network through some of our business resource group with veterans. So a long-winded maybe answer to your question, but a little bit of a scope around kind of journey from here to there and kind of what's possible.
Tracy, I love the journey from here to there because your thread of perseverance, of dedication, finding solutions to continue to grow. And when I think about Chief Human Resource Officers, I know that behind all of this, there's a piece of empathy that's going to be able to relate to those that are coming to work on a daily basis at Cerner, and being able to create those solutions to ensure their continued success. Thank you for sharing. Michael, I'm going to turn to you. Google is a brand synonymous with obtaining information. Military spouses, I'm one who's gone from Hawaii to California to Kansas to Kentucky to Germany to DC, every stop of the way, jumping on Google to find out solutions for housing, to childcare, to employment. And so it helps us start over and start to build community. Tell us why Google has chosen to invest in the military community and why it's important to Google to continue building and growing programs that support opportunity for economic stability through employment.
Yeah, absolutely, Liz. Thanks so much. So Grow with Google is Google's initiative to help create economic opportunities for all Americans. We provide tools, training, and help people grow their skills, careers, and businesses. Our nation's service members, military spouses, and veterans have amazing skills. It's evidence on this panel for all of you, for sure. But frequent moves and difficulty translating skills between military and civilian roles can act as barriers. Through our initiatives for the military community, we hope to remove these barriers and give real support to these families to help them find new opportunities at home, wherever that may be, whether it's making it easier for veteran businesses to stand out or ensure that military spouses have the programs, trainings, and tools that they need to achieve their career goals.
Amazing. Brian, I'm going to turn to you now. The Hiring Our Heroes Military Spouse Professional Networks and Military Spouse Economic Empowerment Zones were created for spouses to connect with career opportunities and employers in their local community. So when you think about Cerner and Google, and put them together coupled with MSPN and MCs, can you tell us how these programs operate at the grassroots level?
Absolutely, Liz. I'm always happy to talk about these programs. The Military Spouse Professional Network is a program that we like to say is a network of networks with over 60 locations around the globe at or around military installations. These volunteer-ran networks provide peer-to-peer networking, employer engagement, and professional development for career-minded military spouses. This network helps those who engage to build community as we move from duty station to duty station throughout our service member spouse's career. And as the Military Spouse Professional Network is a piece of the puzzle, we still needed some other pieces to make this work. We needed the employers engaged. We needed national companies. We needed small and medium-sized businesses outside the gates of the military installations. We needed military spouse economic empowerment zones. These designated zones bring together local military, civic, and business leaders to build working groups that address the unique challenges to military spouse employment in their area. They build programs to hire, train, and advocate for military spouse employment. These two programs then have a very symbiotic relationship where the highly educated, highly skilled military spouse workforce meets the needs of the community.
I love it, Brian. And you know that I'm inspired every day by the efforts of the Military Spouse Program at Hiring Our Heroes. And I think you just captured it so perfectly that these are grassroots efforts across the country. And so when I think about the efforts of Meredith Lozar and yourself and Liz Larson and Crystal and Meredith Smith, these are people that are going to work every day to make a difference. And I want to tell you, I was talking to our team over the course of the last few weeks leading up to this, and we want to continue to play a role and be a solution for programs like you guys and what you do at Hiring Our Heroes. So really excited to share with you guys today that Freedom Learning Group is going to invest $125,000 in workforce development initiatives by 2025, so that programs like yours and others throughout the country can continue to create that change in community. Know that what you're doing is really powerful and that we're watching and companies are responding. Tracy, I'm going to turn to you now. Research is showing that upwards of 75% of job interviews occur through some form of referral or networking opportunity. The programs Brian just mentioned are designed to help create those opportunities for spouses who often lose their networks. I know that I'm one of them, and I also know that I have never had an opportunity for an interview without some kind of referral. Mm-hmm. Can you discuss with us the importance of community engagement and what that might look like from a virtual perspective, and how does Cerner continue to stay engaged?
Yeah, thanks, Liz. What a striking statistic. You know, I think it goes to be stated here. I mean, networking is critical, and I think the statistic just referenced it. thinking about finding that right career opportunity, but it's also equally important to know what one is aiming for. And this will vary for everyone, right, based on aspiration and purpose, and all are equally valid. Attending this event today, everyone's taking a step forward. This provides an opportunity to network. And these are the type of things that I would encourage you to continue to do as it relates to building your network. I think also thinking about a career back plan for yourself, what are those necessary career experiences or knowledge or skills is one approach, and starting with the end in mind, and think about the breadth of experiences that one can secure. That's a huge point to not lose. Unfortunately, as we know, COVID has impacted how people get together for these interactions, but it's also really opened the doors on how companies persist on recruiting, in addition to networking. So it's really went digital. So as we think about as military spouses, regardless of where one is, it really opens up boundaries that frankly prior were based on geographic considerations, and really that's not what you're seeing kind of persisting forward. I mean, if you look at some of the research around workplace post-pandemic, most companies are moving to a hybrid model, which really persists on a virtual presence, some level of a mixed office / virtual presence, and then some jobs are just physical in nature. But that really opens up the doors for our military spouses. So really thinking about it in that regard, we're doing that at Cerner, and most companies are moving in one way, shape, or form in that direction. And competition for talent is intense. So there's really a leg up that I think our military spouses can bring to bear based on their experiences and really the trend of where this is headed.
I think that's one of the silver linings from this challenging year is creating a more level and accessible playing field. And you so eloquently touched on it. And I think that the message for folks out there is take a chance, compete, put your name in the hat, and don't be afraid to build that network and ask to connect.
Yeah.
Michael, I'm going to turn to you now. There's nothing more granular on the community level than providing local employers with a well-developed workforce. And I'm one of them that wants that well-developed workforce. Google's career certificates give military spouses the opportunity to reskill and upskill, which is important now more than ever. Can you tell us how these certificates help job seekers stand out to employers?
Absolutely, and thank you for the question, and thank you for Freedom Learning Group for being such a great partner on these career certificates. So the Google career certificates in IT support, data analytics, project management, and user experience design help make in-demand, high-growth, well-paid jobs accessible to everyone, regardless of their level of education, work experience, or physical location. Google chose to build these courses because they prepare Americans for career fields that are growing, and in fact, currently have 1.3 million open jobs that don't require a 4-year degree or prior experience. These courses are 100% online, hosted on Coursera, and can be completed in 3 to 6 months of part-time, self-paced study anywhere in the world. So spouses from Fort Sill to Aviano can take advantage of the program. The certificate programs are hands-on and rigorous. Each include over 100 hours of instruction, over 100 assessments, so job seekers and employers alike can feel confident in the skills that they gained. This is not a revenue driver for Google, but our partner Coursera does charge a platform fee of $39 a month, which we've worked to waive through scholarships through Hiring Our Heroes. The last thing I want to say is that these certificates are proven to get people dramatic wage gains at scale at the more than 140 employers that recognize them. For example, about half of our graduates enter the program making less than $30K a year, and in 3 to 6 months, they're making on average $55K or more.
Michael, the statistics are unbelievable, especially when you think about military families who so often are living in Aviano or Germany and don't have access to that day-to-day workforce opportunity and to increase their salary by $20,000. That makes a difference as we're searching to become dual income families. Tracy just shared how important it is to source talent in your own backyard, so to speak. And as we look at military spouses, we know that over 70% of them have lost jobs. 70% have lost jobs due to permanent change of station moves. This means there's talent sitting in every employer's backyard. Talk about how effectively community engagement is in obtaining employment for military spouses. And from a partnership perspective, why should employers get involved in MCs to help source that local talent?
Absolutely. You know, Liz, there are many benefits to taking an active role in one's community. We all know that. First and foremost, it's the right thing to do. But there is a business case to be made for this. Giving back strengthens communities while deepening relationships and loyalties. From a PR perspective, it can also provide an important touch point with customers and prospects. Depending on the methods that you use to engage in your community, other businesses or individuals may even reciprocate or even share about these efforts. When you choose to hire military spouses, you set an example for your community. You are breaking down barriers and you are putting up opportunity for economic stability for the military community, which is why I am so excited to be here today with all of you and to announce our new Hiring Our Heroes military spouse hiring campaign called #DiscoverTheTalent. Many of you are familiar with our Hiring 100K military spouse initiative, which started almost 3 years ago. We surpassed that goal, and we want to continue to stay engaged with these employers who took that pledge, as well as continue to grow the engagement by reaching more employers in local communities. Hiring Our Heroes is inviting employers to discover the talent by joining this new campaign and continuing your commitment to hire military spouses. We've created a new web badge for employers to use to amplify this important message. Everyone here today is already involved and invested in military spouse employment. So, Discover the Talent is a call to action to bring others along in discovering the military spouse talent in our local communities. To learn more about this brand new initiative, please visit hiringourheroes.org/discoverthetalent. Following this summit, you will also be receiving information on how you can get involved. We can't wait to get started. Thank you, Liz.
Oh, wow, Brian, this is powerful. And I love that you're continuing the campaign, taking the stories of everybody that's on the panel today and using those stories of success for the power of change. You can consider FLG fully on board in support of #DiscoverTheTalent. Let's go to work. Tracy, Michael, and Brian, I want to thank each of you for your time and your insights today. Your stories, your commitment, they are powerful. We often focus our efforts nationally when there's an incredible progress to be made right outside our front door, and you have each demonstrated how to be the potential solution in our communities. To everyone listening, I know there are thousands of you dialing in today. We must lean in on creating new business models to bolster skill development, build new models for pathways to good jobs, level the playing field while improving that socioeconomic mobility and rekindle that American dream. Together we can. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that powerful discussion, Liz, Brian, Michael, and Tracy. Each of us can and should play a role in changing the paths of military spouses, and you really brought that point home for us today. Thank you. So that brings us to our last award. Please join me now in welcoming Dennis Vai, Executive Vice President, Booz Allen Hamilton, to present the Bonnie Amos Lifetime Achievement Award, sponsored by Booz Allen Hamilton.
Thank you for the warm welcome, Michaela. Good afternoon. On behalf of Hiring Our Heroes and the over 27,000 team members of Booz Allen Hamilton, I am pleased to be here today to present the 2021 Bonnie Amos Military Spouse Impact Award for Lifetime Achievement. This award recognizes a person or entity that has gone above and beyond the call of duty to help promote and protect economic opportunities for military spouses and provide holistic support to military families. Today, I am reminded of a quote from the founder of Booz Allen Hamilton, Edward Booz, who said, "Start with character and fear not the future." This year's recipient did exactly that. Through our lifetime of service to military spouses and families,
She continually exemplifies the collective impact of using strong character and fearless drive to improve the lives of our military families. Take a look.
People know that when Susie commits to a mission, she was all in.
When she sees injustices or she sees people being picked on, she doesn't stand by the sidelines.
She just radiates energy and love, all positivity.
She's the elder of three. Her dad was in the Air Force, and so she grew up moving around the country as military families did in station wagons in those days. All three kids actually went to the University of Arkansas, and she remains a very intense and active Razorback fan. I was assigned at Little Rock Air Force Base, and we lived, it turned out, in the same apartment complex. We dated for quite a while and ultimately got married in 1981. And then from then on, we were a team. That transition that she made from the workplace to her role as a senior military spouse and a mentor is quite remarkable and something that I've always admired.
I could take lessons from Susie. She walks into the room and she's going to go around and meet everyone. She really just created that sense of an Air Force family.
She's involved with lots of organizations. She's involved with the Air Force Enlisted Village. She's involved with clearly the Military Spouse of the Year events, USO, NMFA.
Susie's been a real blessing, not just to me, but to the foundation, because it helped the foundation go into an area that is so very important, because behind every man or woman that wore the uniform is a military family that also serves. And Susie pointed that out every day.
On one of the very first dignified transfer events, Susie and I went up to Dover to greet three fallen. At that time, the families waited in the chapel annex, which was a little room. It was not very comfortable.
Susie saw this and said, no more. She found a building which happened to be an abandoned liquor store. She found the people and the money, and she transformed this building, this fallen down building, into the most remarkable home with living rooms and kitchens and a playroom for the kids. And this place is so beautiful for people to find some comfort during the most difficult hours of their lives. Susie reminds us all the times of the power of the military spouse. It just takes caring and acting.
Armed Forces Insurance has been a longtime sponsor of the Military Spouse of the Year Award. In 2018, I asked Susie to join my team to take this program to the next level, establishing a scholarship program. We have been invited by the USO to be involved in a lot of different activities that they have, as well as other military organizations. The program has a lot of credibility, and there's no way that we would be where we are today without Susie's involvement and influence.
I know she reached many families on a personal level, but I also remember other women telling me that they didn't think they could do something until Susie asked them and led them along the way. And I think she made small and big differences in many people's lives.
Susie has been a person who has dedicated her life to helping create opportunities for military spouses. And looking at their careers, she was a person who said, I can provide those introductions for you. I can help you expand your network so that you can grow and succeed. And I think for many military spouses, that opened doors that they once thought were closed.
It was Susie's work that allowed us to help change the narrative on military spouse employment and really get companies to focus on military spouses as a valuable resource to their businesses.
Between her and General Schwartz, the two of them together, they care so much about the Air Force and the military, and they still live the values that they honed during their time in service. And it's just really inspirational to see.
Susie, I think you're a little too young for a Lifetime Achievement Award, but congratulations and thank you for everything you've done and will continue to do. I know you.
Susie, I want to congratulate you on an honor that is well-deserved.
Susie, congratulations for this Lifetime Achievement Award you're receiving. And I hope you have a long lifetime to keep giving us of your energy and your passion.
Thank you for your dedication to improving the lives of military spouses and families.
We love you, we support you, and we can't think of a better person to have this award.
I'm proud to be called your friend.
It is so special to see you recognized by your peers. Love you, I respect you, and I look forward to the next 40 years.
Congratulations on a job well done. We are honored to present you with the 2021 Hiring Our Heroes Bonnie Amos Impact Award for Lifetime Achievement.
The 2021 recipient of the Bonnie Amos Military Spouse Impact Award for Lifetime Achievement is Susie Swartz.
Thank you. Thank you so much for this great honor. And I'm really honored to receive it. I want to hand it over to Nort before I drop it, and then I'll say a little bit. I want to thank you for this wonderful award. I'm really honored to receive something that has Bonnie Amos's name on it. I have loved her and honored her and admired her for years, and this really makes me happy. Thanks to Booz Allen and to the Chamber of Commerce Hiring Our Heroes. I love what you do. I love what you do every single day. It's kind of funny for me to think that I'm getting an award, and those that knew me when I was younger, they would never have thought that the military or military-related organizations would honor me in any way. I was a bit of a rebel. I spoke my mind, but I hope I made a difference along the way. I chose to work when I was first a young spouse. I thought I could work and be involved in the military. I wanted the military to see that it was possible, that you could work, be a military spouse, and make a difference in the organization or the unit. It didn't always go my way. I got into trouble, one time kind of like serious trouble with the military, but I stood fast and Nort stood beside me. And I think that made a difference for military spouses later on, and I'm very proud of that, getting into trouble, I should say.
Good trouble.
Good trouble. But at a certain point in his career and in traveling around the world together, I realized that working was getting harder and harder, and that maybe I could make more of an impact by jumping in and being totally involved in the military spouse and the family community. So I stopped working and I jumped in with both feet, and I never looked back. I tried my best. When he became chief in the Air Force, we did our best, both of us together. I focused on many things, including the Key Spouse Program, into Exceptional Family Member Program, and into the Center for the Families of the Fallen to support the critical and sacred mission at Dover Air Force Base, something I'm very, very proud of today. We continued to do, but then at a certain point, you have to retire. And I thought really that my time of being involved was over, but it wasn't. And thanks to great organizations like the Fisher House, the Air Force Enlisted Village, I was able to find an opportunity to stay engaged. I've gotten to attend Invictus Games, Wounded Warrior Games. I've supported the Chamber and all they do for military spouse employment. I love it all. But probably my one true passion right now is, it was given to me by Military Spouse Magazine and Armed Forces Insurance. They gave me the opportunity to be involved with the Military Spouse of the Year program. I love it. I love it every single day. They bring me joy. They bring me sometimes a little bit of aggravation, but mostly joy. And I hope that I've been able to pay it forward and contribute to them. I also want to thank some mentors of mine along the way. I was really honored to have mentors like Mary Jo Myers, Lynn Pace. They just performed and supported with style and grace, and I always wanted to have some of that. I don't think I did, but maybe I had some extra passion, maybe that helped me along the way. And then I also really want to thank my husband. He supported me when I spoke out, and believe me, I did. Until the very end, I spoke out. But he never quit supporting me. He believed in me, let me have my passions, and I'm grateful to him for that. I really, really am. It's been a wonderful journey. He taught me to always do the right thing. Sometimes when I was wavering, he'd say, "You know what it is, do the right thing." And I think that I have done that I continue to do that, and I hope that I have made a difference for military spouses and families everywhere. And I want to thank you once again for this great honor. Thank you very much.
Susie, thank you for your decades of service to the military community and your steadfast commitment to equalizing opportunity for military spouses. Congratulations.
Wow, truly a lifetime of achievement in the name of military spouses and families. Congratulations again, Susie. Thank you for joining us here today. As we turn our focus to the future, Hiring Our Heroes remains committed to increasing economic opportunity for military spouses. We are not resting here at HOH, and we look forward to doing this work with you. As we close out today's summit, I'd like to give a special thanks to the incredible military spouse team who makes this program a reality. Brian Alvarado and our workforce development staff, as well as Crystal Cochran and Liz Larson, leading our Military Spouse Fellowship Program and our community events and programs teams. Thank you. And to all of you, let's get to work. Have a great afternoon.